Welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we're doing something a bit different. We're not just looking at recipes. We're trying to unlock what feels like the ultimate culinary cheat code for survival.
That's a great way to put it. It's really a history lesson, but told entirely through, well, sugar, fat, and some incredibly smart chemistry.
Absolutely. Our mission today is, frankly, a massive undertaking. We are plunging deep into the complete Desert Oasis Preserve collection. Now, this isn't just one source, it's a whole stack detailing 23 distinct date-based preserves.
23. And each one, represents a specific miraculous oasis. These weren't just spots with water. They were places that allowed complex human civilization to actually flourish in some of the most arid, seemingly impossible landscapes on Earth.
Right. It's astonishing when you think about it. So the goal here is to unpack how these desert cultures survived and even thrived by developing these sophisticated culinary and survival strategies.
It really is a masterclass in adaptation, and that's the insight we want to give you, the listener. When you examine these 23 entries, you're not seeing simple pantry items like jam or something.
No, not at all.
You're seeing highly concentrated survival mechanisms. Each one tells a story. This collection provides essentially a cultural, nutritional, and chemical map. It spans from the remote Saharan trading posts, way out there, all the way to the lush artesian springs of the Arabian Gulf.
So it covers a huge geographical and cultural range.
Immense, and it shows precisely how these cultures transformed the humble date, along with other precious, hard-won oasis ingredients, into sophisticated, genuinely life-sustaining cuisine.
Okay, let's get into this collection then. The absolute starting point for every single one of these miraculous preserves is the date. It's often called the perfect desert fruit. Why? What makes the date so indispensable? Why was it the foundation?
Well, it's the ultimate natural energy source, and crucially, a great base for preservation. Think about it. For nomadic peoples, for desert traders facing maybe days, maybe weeks of brutal, scorching travel, the date provided immediate, really concentrated sweetness and energy.
Like a natural energy bar.
Exactly. They are essentially nutrient-dense battery packs.
Yeah.
If you look at the source data we have, just the pitted and quartered medjool dates alone in many of these recipes contribute significant calories. We're talking over 800 calories per recipe entry on average, just from the dates.
Wow.
They are the energy foundation, the core sweetness that fuels the body instantly. And that's paramount when you have absolutely zero guarantee of when your next meal or even your next reliable water source might appear.
Okay, so the date provides the fuel, that concentrated energy, but the fuel is useless if it spoils after a day in the desert heat, right?
Precisely. That's where the preservation methods come in. They provide the necessary durability to survive the desert's relentless hostility. We really need to talk about the philosophy of desert preservation here. Because in conditions of extreme heat and scarcity, your standard methods of keeping food, they just fail. Completely.
So what were the core strategies? The sources mention 4 recurring mechanisms across this huge collection. Techniques designed specifically to make these foods last.
Necessity truly is the mother of invention here. And the genius, really, lies in leveraging chemistry that is naturally antimicrobial. It's incredibly clever.
Okay, what's the first one? I imagine sugar plays a big role.
It does. The first, and probably the most easily understood, is high sugar content. Dates themselves, as we said, are packed with natural sugar. But when you reduce this further, like you see in preserves such as the date honey dolce #7 or the date rose honey syrup #21, you drastically increase what's called the osmotic pressure.
Osmotic pressure. Break that down for us.
Sure. In simple terms, you create an environment where bacteria, molds, microbes, they literally cannot absorb the water they need to survive and multiply. The high sugar concentration effectively pulls the water out of them. So the food becomes shelf-stable simply through chemical exclusion. Water activity is too low.
Okay, so that's like the principle behind traditional jams and jellies, but supercharged by the date's already massive sugar load. Makes sense. What's the second major method?
The second is fermentation. This is fascinating because it leads to acid production, and that's crucial, not just for preserving the food, but often for water safety too. We see this clearly in the date vinegar ferment, #8 from the Sahel region, and also in the date-aged balsamic vinegar, #22 from Libya.
Fermentation, so we're talking alcohol.
Initially, yes. The process involves using the date's abundant sugar to produce alcohol. It's a basic form of brewing, really, adapted for the desert environment, using wild yeast potentially present on the dates or in the air. But then, crucially, they intentionally introduce a specific culture, a group of bacteria called Acetobacter.
Acetobacter. Okay, what does that do?
Acetobacter is the key. It's a specific group of bacteria, widely present, that has the ability to convert alcohol, ethanol, into acetic acid. That's the acid in vinegar. So these oasis dwellers weren't just accidentally making slightly spoiled date wine. They were deliberately cultivating a specific biochemical process.
To create vinegars or shrubs, right?
Exactly. Vinegars, or sometimes shrubs, which are typically vinegar-based syrups, these acidic liquids were life-sustaining. Acidity is a powerful preservative in its own right, inhibiting a wide range of spoilage organisms. And, maybe even more importantly in the desert, adding a strong vinegar to potentially contaminated water could help make it safer to drink. It lowers the pH, killing some harmful bacteria.
That's incredible ingenuity, just using natural processes. So like high sugar, high acid, that covers a lot of ground. What about preserving fats, which are also crucial for energy?
Yes. That leads us to the third mechanism, which is incredibly unique and really specific to nomadic life, especially cultures relying on camels. That's fat confit. The prime example in this collection is the date camel milk butter confit, #4, associated with the Tuareg.
Confit usually means cooking something slowly in its own fat, right? How does that work for preservation here?
Fat acts as a powerful seal. By completely submerging the dates in clarified butter where the water and milk solids have been removed, you displace all the water around the dates. More importantly, you create an anaerobic environment, no oxygen.
And most spoilage bacteria need oxygen.
Many of them do, yes.
Yeah.
So the fat physically blocks oxygen and moisture, preventing spoilage.
Yeah.
Plus, the fat itself is a fantastic long-term energy source, and it acts as a protective barrier against the harsh desert elements like sand and extreme temperature fluctuations.
A self-preserving energy source.
That's
Clever. And the final method, probably the most obvious for dry climates.
right, the ultimate in portability and moisture removal. Drying or dehydration. This is perfectly epitomized by the date orange blossom leather, #9 from Tunisia.
Fruit leather, basically.
Essentially, yes. By reducing the moisture content down to practically zero, often through sun drying or low heat over a long period, you achieve several things. You concentrate the nutritional profile, all the sugars, fiber, minerals become denser. You make it incredibly lightweight and thin, highly portable, and you create an extremely shelf-stable product. Properly dried fruit leather can last for years, not just months.
And that shelf stability across the board is astounding. The notes consistently mention these preserves maintaining optimal quality for 18 to 24 months, even just under refrigeration, thanks to that high sugar, low moisture, or high acid fat combination.
It's a testament to how effective these ancient techniques are.
But it wasn't just about making food last. These preparations provided sophisticated nutrition specifically adapted for survival in extreme heat. If we synthesize the key nutritional takeaways across all 23 recipes, what were the main reasons these specific preserves sustained life so effectively?
You can really see how they are biochemically tailored for heat survival. I'd highlight 3 critical aspects.
Okay.
First, many function as a potassium powerhouse. You look at recipes like the date tamarind compote, #3, the date candied orange marmalade, #16, the date dried fig preserves, #18, and the date pomegranate reduction, #19. They all boast exceptional potassium content, often soaring past 400 milligrams per serving, which is significant.
And why is potassium so critical in the desert?
It's absolutely vital for preventing heat exhaustion and heat stroke. Potassium is a key electrolyte, crucial for maintaining fluid balance within cells, proper nerve function, and muscle contractions. In the desert, you're sweating constantly, losing electrolytes rapidly, especially potassium and sodium. This depletion can lead to severe muscle cramping, weakness, irregular heartbeat, and potentially life-threatening heat-related illnesses.
So, consuming these potassium-rich preserves was like taking a natural electrolyte supplement.
Precisely, a direct countermeasure to the physical demands and dangers of desert life. It helps your body manage hydration and nerve signals under extreme stress.
Okay, potassium for electrolyte balance. What's the second key nutritional benefit?
Secondly, they deliver pure, sustained desert energy. Yes, as we said, they have concentrated natural sugars from the dates for that quick fuel boost. But that energy release is expertly managed because many are also incredibly fiber-rich.
The fiber makes the sugar burn slower.
Exactly. Look at recipes like the date pomegranate molasses chutney, #2, the date apricot kernel conserve, #5, the date chickpea paste, #11, and again, the date dried fig preserves, #18. They all hit high fiber marks, sometimes up to 6 grams per serving, which can be over 20% of your daily value. This fiber is the biochemical secret to endurance.
How so?
Fiber slows down the absorption of sugar into the bloodstream. So instead of getting a rapid energy spike followed by an exhausting crash, which is the last thing you want when you're crossing a desert, you get a much more sustained, steady release of energy over several hours. This is absolutely essential for long treks, hard labor under the sun, or just surviving between infrequent meals.
Steady energy release. Got it. And the third aspect, you mentioned minerals and antioxidants earlier.
Absolutely. Beyond the macronutrients and potassium, the overall mineral wealth is striking and tailored. We can't overlook the specific contributions from other ingredients. Things like magnesium, crucial for muscle function and energy metabolism, often found alongside potassium. Copper, needed for iron absorption and enzyme function, seen in the tahini curd, #6. Iron itself, essential for carrying oxygen in the blood, found in the chickpea paste, #11. These micronutrients are vital for overall physiological resilience.
And the antioxidants. Why are they particularly important in the desert?
Intense sun exposure means high levels of ultraviolet radiation. This UV radiation generates oxidative stress in the body, basically, damage to cells caused by unstable molecules called free radicals. Antioxidants, which are abundant in many of these preserves thanks to ingredients like pomegranates, #2, #19, sumac 12, hibiscus, #8, #20, and even the dates themselves, help neutralize these free radicals.
So they protect the body from sun damage, essentially.
They help mitigate that cellular damage, yes. It's another layer of protection against the environmental stresses. So when you put it all together, the shelf stability, the concentrated energy, the slow release from fiber, the crucial electrolytes like potassium, the essential minerals, and the protective antioxidants, these preserves weren't just food. They were, in many ways, personalized desert pharmaceuticals, chemically engineered for survival.
Okay, let's begin tracing this culinary map. We'll start in North Africa, focusing on the Maghreb oases. This region, as you said, was a real cultural crossroads, a place where nomadic necessity met sometimes surprisingly sophisticated architectural ingenuity, especially around the oases.
Absolutely. This is where the Sahara meets the Mediterranean and sub-Saharan Africa.
Yeah.
The flow of goods, people, and ideas was constant, driven by the trans-Saharan trade routes, and the oases were the vital nodes in that network.
So our first preserve is one, date-preserved lemon achar, Saharan oasis. This sounds immediately intriguing. What's an achar in this context?
An achar is traditionally a type of pickle or relish. You find variations across South Asia and the Middle East. But this version is distinctly North African, adapted for the Saharan climate and trade. It perfectly encapsulates the dynamism of a Berber trading post. Imagine a place buzzing with activity, goods changing hands.
And the ingredients reflect that mix.
Totally. It represents the meeting of African, Arab, and potentially even European influences filtering down the trade routes. The technique itself is quite specific, marrying these different culinary threads.
The outline mentions quartering the dates. Is there a specific reason for that beyond just portioning?
Yes, it's a crucial structural step. They use medjool dates typically, which are large, fleshy, and very sweet. By quartering them, you expose more of the sticky, sugary interior surface area. This allows the dates to fully absorb the other dominant flavor, the intense salinity and tangy acid from the preserved lemons.
Ah, preserved lemons. That's a classic North African ingredient. Very salty, very lemony.
Extremely. And that combination is key. You have the date's high sugar content meeting the lemon's high salt content and acidity. This balance wasn't just for flavor, it was fundamental to preservation in the heat. Salt and sugar both inhibit microbial growth. So you get this incredible sweet, salty, sour, complex flavor profile that's also inherently shelf-stable. Life or death ingredients, really salt and sugar working together.
The recipe also specifies heating argan oil until fragrant, then blooming cumin and coriander in it. The choice of fat here, argan oil, seems significant.
It absolutely is. Argan oil is unique to Morocco and parts of Algeria. Using it immediately flags this preserve's origin. Functionally, it provides essential, healthy, monounsaturated fats, which are a vital, stable energy source for travelers on long journeys. Heating it gently and blooming the spices, cumin and coriander are staples in the region, releases their aromatic oils, infusing the entire enchar.
And nutritionally, besides the fats.
The preserved lemons are the star here, beyond preservation. They deliver a significant hit of sodium, around 680 milligrams per serving, which is vital for replenishing salts lost through sweat. And, maybe surprisingly, they retain a good amount of vitamin C, about 20% of your daily value per serving. This was absolutely critical for preventing scurvy on those multi-month trans-Saharan camel caravan journeys.
Scurvy was a real danger, even in the desert.
A huge danger on any long journey without fresh produce. Finally, the recipe includes ras el hanout. That's that famous, complex North African spice blend. The name literally means head of the shop, implying the best spices the merchant has. Its inclusion signifies the ultimate convergence of flavors, goods, and cultures you'd only find at a major Saharan trading oasis. It elevates the akar from simple preservation to a true culinary statement.
Okay, from the bustling trading post, we shift focus dramatically to deep nomadic survival embodied by the four date camel milk butter confit Tuareg trail. This recipe is linked to the Tuareg, the famed blue men of the Sahara.
Yes, this is about pure, unadulterated survival in one of the harshest environments imaginable. The Tuareg are masters of the desert, and their food reflects that deep understanding of what's needed to endure.
The key technical detail highlighted here is the temperature control. It says the camel milk butter must be heated to precisely 140 degrees Fra, that's about 60 degrees C. Why such a specific and relatively low temperature? It seems counterintuitive for preservation.
This is a fantastic example of how specific traditional knowledge aligns with, well, lipid chemistry. It relates directly to the unique composition and crystalline structure of camel milk fat. Camel milk, and therefore its butter, is different from cow's milk butter. Its fatty acid profile and fat globule structure are adapted for an animal that thrives in extreme heat and dehydration.
So heating it higher would damage it.
Exactly. Heating camel milk butter too high, say to the temperatures you might use for clarifying cow butter, could potentially break down that specific crystalline matrix. This would make it less stable, more prone to separating and becoming rancid, especially when stored or carried in the high ambient temperatures of the Sahara. Keeping it relatively low, at 140 degrees Fahrenheit, is hot enough to melt the butter and gently cook the dates, but not so hot that it compromises the fat's inherent stability.
So it's a careful balancing act, hot enough to preserve, cool enough to maintain the fat's integrity.
Precisely. At that temperature, the dates slowly cook and soften, absorbing the savory complexity of the butter, along with other ingredients mentioned like dried limes and maybe thyme or other desert herbs. It creates a stable, high-fat confit, the dates suspended in the butter, that won't easily melt into an oily mess or spoil during travel. The clarification process at this lower temperature also removes water, which is key for preservation.
It sounds incredibly rich, a true survival food.
Oh, absolutely. The nutritional data reflects that. It clocks in at around 24 grams of total fat per serving, and a very high 15 grams of saturated fat, which is about 75% of the recommended daily value. This extreme caloric density is precisely what allowed Tuareg nomads to cover vast distances across the desert on minimal rations. It's concentrated energy that lasts.
And the dried limes, another recurring theme for long journeys.
Yes. Dried limes, or lumi as they're often called in the Gulf, were a common way to preserve citrus. They provide that essential vitamin C, again, fighting off scurvy, and also add a unique, tangy, almost smoky counterpoint to the richness of the butter and the sweetness of the dates. It makes the confit more palatable for long-term consumption. This is food as pure fuel and medicine.
Okay, moving from that deep nomadic context back towards the trade hubs, but still in North Africa, we have the 17 date cinnamon mostarda, Tafilaut Oasis. Tafilaut in Morocco was a major southern gateway for caravans heading across the Sahara towards Timbuktu.
Right, Tafilaut was strategically vital, a huge date-producing oasis and a launching point for incredibly long and arduous journeys. This preserve, the mostarda, reflects that role as a bustling departure point. It's defined by intense, almost guiding aromatic spices that needed to be bold, recognizable, and enticing to travelers preparing for the hardships ahead.
Now, a mostarda, that sounds Italian. What is it doing in a Moroccan oasis?
Good catch. A mostarda is traditionally an Italian fruit preserve, usually made with candied fruit and a mustard-flavored syrup, often using mustard essential oil or seeds. Its presence here is another sign of those long-distance trade connections, perhaps knowledge filtering down from Mediterranean routes. But it's adapted using local ingredients, specifically date vinegar instead of grape-based vinegar or wine.
How is it made? The notes mention keeping the dates chunky.
Yes. The method specifies dicing the dates large. This is important texturally. Unlike a smooth jam, you want the dates to retain a distinct, chewy presence against the sharpness of the mustard component. The key flavor development comes from toasting mustard seeds, probably black or brown mustard seeds for intensity, and fresh ground cinnamon until their aromas are really pungent and penetrating. This fills the air you can imagine in the preparation areas.
What's the function of that mustard sharpness in a sweet date preserve? It seems like an odd combination.
It's all about balance and stimulating the palate. Dijon mustard, or a similar strong mustard preparation, provides a necessary sharp, pungent contrast. It cuts through the intense sweetness of the dates, preventing them from becoming cloyingly sweet or monotonous, which can actually dull the appetite over time. That kick.
And the cinnamon.
Cinnamon adds that warm, sweet spice aroma that's very common in Moroccan cuisine. It complements the dates beautifully. The source note suggests, interestingly, that strong spices like cinnamon might also have been used historically to mask the slight off flavors of ingredients that weren't perfectly fresh after long storage or travel, a practical consideration.
Nutritionally, this one stands out for sodium, right?
Yes, it has the highest sodium content in the entire collection, according to the source data. A massive 1,080 milligrams per serving. That's nearly half, 47% of the daily recommended value. This wasn't accidental. For the caravan laborers, the porters, the guides facing intense physical exertion and sweat loss, this was critical sodium replenishment packed into their rations.
So it's an electrolyte bomb, essentially.
Definitely. Plus, you get the specific bioactive compounds from the spices. Cinnamaldehyde from the cinnamon, known for its aroma and potential metabolic effects, and allyl isothiocyanate from the mustard seeds, that's the compound that gives mustard its pungent kick, also studied for various health properties.
Yeah.
It's very functional, very intense preserve.
Next, we see a fascinating intersection of food preservation and architecture. 9. Date orange blossom leather, Tunisian oasis, connected to the famous Tozeur date gardens in Tunisia.
Tozeur. Known for its vast palm groves and its unique traditional architecture, using intricately patterned geometric brickwork. This preserve is a beautiful reflection of that environment preservation elevated to an art form, mirroring the resource management and design principles needed to maintain such an oasis.
How is it made? The notes mention a specific consistency.
The method requires starting with an ultra-smooth date puree. This puree is then cooked down, reduced slowly until it becomes incredibly dense, viscous, and thick. The source notes explicitly compare the final consistency to the mud bricks used to construct Tozeur's old city walls and buildings. That tells you how thick and non-sticky it needs to be.
Like edible clay.
Exactly. Then, instead of just spreading it flat, the instructions say to spread it out in precise geometric patterns mimicking the local brickwork before dehydrating it. This dehydration is done at a low temperature, around 135 degrees F, 57 degrees C, for a very long time, 24 to 28 hours, ensuring it's completely dry and stable.
So the visual design isn't just aesthetic, it relates to the local culture.
It absolutely speaks to the cultural mindset of precision, order, and meticulous design that was necessary to create and maintain a thriving oasis like Tozeur in a harsh environment. Functionally, the thinness achieved by spreading it out aids even drying. The characteristic flavor comes from orange blossom water, a signature scent and taste of Tunisia and much of North Africa, evoking a sense of floral abundance amidst the aridity. Honey and lemon juice are often added for balance and preservation too.
And the goal here is maximum portability.
Ultimate portability and nutrient concentration. Once dried, this leather is incredibly lightweight, flexible, and durable. It's low in fat, low in sodium, but packed with concentrated natural sugars, about 23 grams per serving, and a good amount of fiber, around 4 grams. It's the perfect, stable, high-energy ration for travelers or workers.
Shifting gears now towards something with more heat. Let's discuss 14. Date harissa jam, Algerian oasis. This one is linked to the Mzab Valley of Pentapolis in Algeria.
The Veb Valley is unique, a cluster of 5 fortified hilltop towns founded by the Ibadi Berber people, known for their distinct traditions and cultural preservation, partly due to their relative isolation in the northern Sahara. This jam, using harissa, is described as a culinary expression of that fierce independence and cultural identity.
Harissa is that fiery chili paste, right?
It is, but it's usually much more complex than just heat. Algerian harissa often features ingredients like roasted red peppers, garlic, caraway, coriander, and cumin, along with the chilies. It's a deep, complex flavor profile. The method for this jam involves slow cooking the dates with the harissa paste until the mixture achieves this deep, rich red color. The source notes poetically liken it to a Saharan sunset.
And the heat level, is it overwhelming?
Crucially, the instructions emphasize that the heat should build slowly during the cooking process. This suggests it's not about scorching one-note spiciness. It's about allowing the complex flavors of the harissa to meld with the sweetness of the dates, creating layers of flavor rather than just simple, punishing heat.
What else contributes to the flavor profile here, besides the dates and harissa?
Tomato paste is often added. This brings an important umami depth, a savory richness that's actually quite rare in many traditional desert cuisines. Cumin is also frequently highlighted, reinforcing that earthy North African character and providing a specific Algerian distinction.
And nutritionally, what does the harissa bring?
You get a moderate amount of capsaicin, the compound responsible for the chili heat. Capsaicin is known to stimulate circulation and metabolism, which could be beneficial in regulating body temperature, strangely enough. The peppers also contribute beta-carotene, a precursor to vitamin A, and the preserve retains a high fiber content from the dates, around 5 grams per serving. It's a robust, warming, and flavorful preserve.
Finally, for this North African section, we look at a strategic preserve from Libya, 22, date-aged balsamic vinegar, Ojila Oasis. Ojila is described as a Libyan crossroads.
Yes, Ojila has been an important oasis settlement for millennia, situated where ancient Berber, Arab, and even Mediterranean trade routes intersected. This preserve, a date-based balsamic-style vinegar, is a fascinating example of adapting techniques from one region of the Mediterranean, famous for balsamic vinegar for the resources available in a Saharan oasis. It's cultural cross-pollination in a bottle.
So how do you make balsamic vinegar from dates? Isn't balsamic traditionally from grapes?
It is traditionally made from grape must. This adaptation starts with creating a base alcohol from the dates. Crushed dates are fermented, likely with water and relying on natural yeasts, to produce a sort of date wine or fermented date liquid. This is the initial alcoholic fermentation.
Okay, step 1, date wine. Then what?
Step 2 is introducing the acetobacter. Remember them, the bacteria that convert alcohol to acetic acid. This is often done by adding a starter culture, perhaps from a previous batch of vinegar, or sometimes by using a bit of existing high-quality aged balsamic vinegar itself, which carries the necessary bacteria and helps establish the desired flavor profile. Red wine might also be used in the base for complexity, reflecting those Mediterranean links.
And this isn't a quick process, right? Balsamic takes time.
Not at all. This is a long-term project. The source notes say it typically ages for 20 to 24 weeks, maybe longer, in darkness. This extended aging allows the acetic acid to develop fully and complex flavors to mature and mellow through slow oxidation and esterification processes. The analogy used in the source material is quite evocative. Aging it in darkness, like the covered protected souks or markets, where valuable goods were stored away from the harsh sun.
Protecting valuable liquid as it develops.
Exactly. The resulting vinegar is noted as being the lowest calorie preserve in the entire collection, just around 65 calories per serving. But its value isn't in calories, it's in its functional properties. A reliable acetic acid content of around 5%, making it a useful preservative and potentially a water purifier when diluted. Plus, the long fermentation and aging process yields beneficial probiotics and polyphenols, which are antioxidants derived from the dates in any wine used.
So it's useful for cooking, but also potentially for health and safety.
Certainly. It could be used to make sophisticated dressings or marinades, adding a unique, sweet-tart complexity. But historically, its ability to acidify and thus help preserve other foods or make water safer might have been its most crucial function at that Libyan crossroads.
Okay, let's shift our journey eastward now. We're moving from the starker survival necessities of the Sahara towards regions often associated with luxury, sophisticated gardens and the immense wealth generated by the Silk Road and Persian empires. Here, the concept of paradise itself was often defined by human ingenuity in managing water and cultivating abundance.
That's a perfect framing. We're entering areas where oases weren't just survival points, but centers of power, culture, and elaborate agriculture, often built around ingenious irrigation like the Persian Qanat systems.
We begin with 2, date pomegranate molasses chutney, Persian paradise. The name itself is evocative.
It really is. This chutney speaks directly to that idealized vision of the Persian or Zoroastrian garden paradisa, the origin of our word paradise. These weren't just gardens, they were highly engineered, irrigated spaces that represented order, beauty, and abundance wrested from the arid landscape. This chutney aims to capture that essence.
How does the preparation reflect that idea of cultivated luxury?
The method calls for slow caramelizing shallots until they're deeply golden and sweet. This creates a rich, complex, sweet foundation, much more refined than just raw onion. Then, crucially, saffron threads are added. Saffron, the world's most expensive spice, harvested painstakingly from crocuses, is the ultimate symbol of luxury and refinement in Persian cuisine. It adds that characteristic golden hue and delicate, unmistakable aroma.
And the other key ingredients, pomegranate and walnuts, what do they signify?
Pomegranate molasses, or rabianar, provides a concentrated, tangy tartness. This sweet-sour balance, or masa, is absolutely central to Persian flavor profiles. It cuts the richness and sweetness of the dates beautifully. The inclusion of toasted walnut pieces is also highly significant. Walnuts, like pistachios, represent the successful cultivation of high-value tree crops beyond the date palm. This signifies a mastery over the environment, particularly water management, allowing for a greater diversity of agriculture. It's a sign of a truly established, wealthy oasis.
Nutritionally, this one seems quite potent too. The notes mention omega-3s and punicolagens.
Yes, the walnuts contribute a good amount of plant-based omega-3 fatty acids, ALA, around 2.1 grams per serving, which are important for brain and heart health. And the pomegranate molasses is the source of punicolagens.
What exactly are punicolagens again?
They are unique, very powerful antioxidants found almost exclusively in pomegranates. They're known to be highly bioavailable and have significant protective effects against oxidative stress at the cellular level. In the context of ancient Persian courts and wealthy households, consuming foods rich in these compounds wasn't just about taste. It was likely viewed as consuming something restorative, health-giving, and life-enhancing part of that paradise ideal. It's also very high in fiber, about 5 grams, again balancing the sweetness and aiding digestion.
Moving along the trade routes, we hit the ultimate crossroads preserve. 5. Date apricot kernel conserve. Silk Road Oasis. This comes from Dunhuang, a major trading hub on the edge of the Taklamakan Desert in China.
Dunhuang was incredible, a true melting pot where merchants, monks, soldiers, and pilgrims from China, Persia, India, Tibet, and even echoes of the Roman world converged. This conserve is a beautiful culinary reflection of that fusion, blending Middle Eastern dates with Central Asian apricots and kernels, using distinctly Chinese flavorings and techniques.
The preparation highlights toasting apricot kernels. Why kernels, not just apricots?
Apricot kernels, the seeds inside the pit, have a unique flavor, often described as similar to almonds but with a slightly more intense, sometimes faintly bitter note. Toasting them enhances this nutty, almond-like aroma. Importantly, apricot kernels themselves were valuable commodities traded along the Silk Road, used for food, oil, and traditional medicine, so their inclusion points directly to the exchange of goods.
And the flavor components really signal that cultural integration.
Absolutely. The base might be Sahiti dates, a semi-dry variety common in the Middle East, and dried apricots, a staple across Central Asia and China. But the recipe incorporates shohaxing wine, a classic Chinese rice wine used for cooking, and Chinese five-spice powder.
5 spice. That's cinnamon, cloves, fennel, star anise, and
Sichuan pepper, typically. That blend gives the conserve an unmistakable Chinese character, warm, aromatic, slightly numbing, completely different from purely Middle Eastern spicing. It's a tangible taste of the Silk Road's reach, showing how ingredients and culinary ideas traveled immense distances and were integrated into new forms.
the nutritional notes mention high potassium, high vitamin E, and also trace amygdalin. Let's unpack those.
Okay, high potassium we know is crucial for hydration and nerve function, very relevant for desert travel. High vitamin E, around 20% DV, is important too. It's a fat-soluble antioxidant that helps protect cell membranes, particularly important for preserving fats within the conserve and potentially offering protective benefits to the consumer.
And the amygdalin. That sounds familiar, sometimes controversial.
Yes, amygdalin is a cyanogenic glycoside found naturally in apricot kernels, bitter almonds, and other fruit seeds. In larger amounts, it can release cyanide, which is toxic. However, the amounts present in culinary uses like this, especially after processing like toasting, are generally considered trace and primarily contribute a characteristic faint bitterness that actually helps balance the sweetness of the dates and apricots. It's part of the unique flavor profile, not a safety concern in this context. It distinguishes it from, say, a preserve made with sweet almonds. Good clarification. Okay, for peak desert luxury in this region, we have 10. Date pistachio compound butter, Kerman Oasis. This celebrates the Persian nut groves of Kerman, Iran, famous for both dates and pistachios, often called green gold. Kerman is renowned for producing some of Iran's finest dates, particularly the Mazafati variety, and world-class pistachios. This preserve is pure opulence, showcasing these two prized local ingredients. It also employs a rather modern technique mentioned in the source notes to achieve the perfect texture.
What's the technique?
It specifies using freeze-dried and powdered Mazafati dates. This is a crucial step for making a stable compound butter.
Why freeze-dried? Why not just date paste?
Because any moisture introduced into butter will compromise its structure and dramatically shorten its shelf life, promoting rancidity. Butter is an emulsion of fat and a small amount of water. Adding more water throws off that balance. By using freeze-dried powdered dates, you get all the concentrated sweetness and date flavor, but in a completely dry form. It incorporates smoothly into the butter without adding moisture.
Ah, that's clever. It stabilizes the fat while delivering the flavor.
Exactly. This stabilization is critical, especially if this butter was intended to last or be transported, even as a luxury item. The other key components are finely ground pistachios, which provide that beautiful green-colored, nutty flavor and release their own healthy oils into the butter. Pistachio oil might also be added to intensify the flavor, and of course saffron threads are included again, signifying maximum luxury, adding color and aroma.
So it's a very rich, flavorful butter.
Extremely. The nutritional profile reflects this. High in total fat, around 21 grams per serving, with a good portion of that being heart-healthy monounsaturated fat, about 7 grams, from the pistachios and pistachio oil. It also provides vitamin K, important for blood clotting. This butter really shows how ancient, valuable ingredients could be combined using sophisticated techniques, even modern ones hinted at here, to create entirely new, high-value formats fit for Persian royalty or wealthy merchants. It's a long way from basic survival rations. Right, let's move westward again, but this time into the Levant and the Fertile Crescent. This is arguably the true cradle of civilization, home to some of the world's oldest continuously inhabited cities and the birthplace of agriculture, all made possible by major river valleys like the Tigris and Euphrates and reliable permanent springs.
So here the focus shifts a bit. Maybe less about extreme nomadic survival and more about the foodways of settled agricultural societies.
Generally, yes. While preservation was still important, you start seeing ingredients and preparations that reflect a more stable agricultural base. There's evidence of long-term food storage, but also the integration of cultivated grains, legumes, and a wider variety of fruits and vegetables grown possible by reliable water sources.
Let's begin with 11, date chickpea paste, Fertile Crescent, which the notes linked directly to Mesopotamian innovation.
This recipe is fundamental. It represents the very beginnings of settled agriculture and urban civilization in Mesopotamia, the land between the Tigris and Euphrates rivers. Think Sumerians, Babylonians. What's ingenious here is the combination of the date palm's reliable high-energy fruit with the chickpea, one of the earliest cultivated legumes.
A powerhouse combination. Energy from the dates, protein and fiber from the chickpeas.
Exactly. Chickpeas provided a crucial source of plant-based protein and dietary fiber, complementing the date's sugars. This combination offered a much more balanced nutritional profile, capable of sustaining larger, settled populations engaged in farming and building the first cities.
How is the paste typically made? Is it smooth like hummus?
Interestingly, the method described often involves only partially mashing the cooked chickpeas. The goal isn't necessarily a perfectly smooth puree like modern hummus. Instead, they aim to maintain some textural integrity from the chickpeas while still building a creamy, cohesive base. The dates needed to be chopped very finely to integrate smoothly.
So you get texture and creaminess together. What else goes in?
Roasted garlic for depth of flavor, pomegranate molasses for that characteristic Middle Eastern sweet-tart balance, and likely olive oil, another staple of the region once cultivation spread. This wasn't just a simple spread, it was a nutritional cornerstone, representing the bounty of early agriculture.
And the nutritional profile reflects that foundational role.
Absolutely. According to the data, this paste ties for the highest fiber content in the entire collection, a substantial 6 grams per serving, or 21% of the daily value. It's also high in protein, around 6 grams, and it's an excellent source of folate, about 21% DV, which is crucial for cell growth, and iron, about 10% DV, vital for preventing anemia and carrying oxygen. This is the kind of food that literally fueled the development of civilization.
A true foundation ingredient. Moving slightly west, we have 6. Date sesame tahini curd, Dead Sea oasis, from the Jordan Valley.
This recipe takes us to the unique environment around the Dead Sea, the lowest point on Earth. Oases in this region, like near Jericho, have supported palm cultivation for millennia. This curd combines the intense, nutty richness of tahini ground sesame paste, a staple across the Levant, with concentrated date syrup, likely Bibs or Ceylon.
A curd. That implies eggs, right? Like lemon curd.
Yes, exactly. The preparation involves whisking the tahini until smooth, then incorporating egg yolks one at a time, just like making a traditional custard or curd. The date syrup provides the sweetness instead of refined sugar. It requires careful cooking over very gentle heat with constant whisking until it thickens and sets into a rich, luscious curd.
The source notes compare the patience required to desert farming.
It's a fitting analogy. Just as cultivating crops in that challenging environment requires meticulous care and patience, so does making this curd. Rushing it or using too much heat will cause the eggs to scramble or the tahini to separate. It demands attention.
Nutritionally, tahini and eggs mean it's quite
It
rich.
is. It's naturally high in fat, around 18 grams per serving, largely from the sesame seeds and egg yolks, but it also delivers essential minerals that might be harder to come by in some desert diets.
Which minerals stand out here?
Tahini is an excellent source of calcium, providing about 13% DV per serving, and copper, a very high 33% DV. Copper is essential for iron absorption and enzyme function. Sesame seeds also contain unique compounds called lignans, like sesamin, which have very studied health benefits, and the recipe often calls for a pinch of dead sea salt.
Dead sea salt is special, isn't it? Very mineral rich.
Extremely. Unlike regular sea salt, mostly sodium chloride, dead sea salt is very high in minerals like magnesium, potassium, calcium, and bromides. Adding a pinch wouldn't just be for flavor, it would add further mineral complexity, potentially enhancing the nutritional value and making it even more adapted for replenishing minerals lost in the intense heat of the Jordan Valley.
Fascinating. Okay, heading towards the heart of Bedouin culture now. 3 date tamarind compote, Arabian Nights. This originates from the wisdom of the Bedouin campfire.
This preserve feels very elemental, capturing the rhythm and balance of traditional Bedouin life. It's less about complex techniques and more about understanding the core flavors of the desert. The base uses barky dates, a variety known for being soft and caramel-like even when relatively fresh. They're cooked very gently, maybe just with a little water, until they start to break down, but still retain some of their shape and character.
Not cooked into a mush.
Right, you want some texture.
Yeah.
The key flavor counterpoint here is tamarind paste. Tamarind, from the pod of the tamarind tree, provides a unique, sour, tangy, almost fruity note that's essential for cutting through the intense sweetness of the dates. It's that classic sweet-sour balance again, achieved with purely desert-friendly ingredients.
The notes mention cardamom as being crucial. Why cardamom?
Cardamom adds that quintessential warm aromatic complexity strongly associated with Arabian coffee, gawa. Coffee ceremonies are central to Bedouin hospitality and social life. Adding cardamom to the date compote links it to that cultural touchstone, making it more than just sustenance. It becomes part of a ritual of welcome and sharing. Honey might also be added for extra sweetness or flavor depth.
And the preparation technique itself is described as meditative.
Yes, the source notes describe the gentle cooking required as a meditation through cooking. This really honors the patient wisdom of the Bedouin understanding the environment, working with its rhythms, not forcing things. It's about achieving balance through careful, mindful preparation.
Nutritionally, what does this compote offer?
It's another potassium powerhouse, delivering around 420 milligrams per serving, crucial for hydration in the Arabian desert. Tamarind also contributes tartaric acid, which provides the sourness and can act as an antioxidant. And you get moderate levels of various B vitamins from the dates, important for energy metabolism. It's simple, balanced, and deeply traditional.
Now we encounter 2 preserves linked to the immense wealth and strategic importance of ancient Syria, starting with 12. Date sumac gastrique, Palmyra trade route.
Palmyra, an astonishing city that rose to incredible power and wealth in the Syrian desert, largely by controlling the lucrative trade routes between the Roman Empire and Persia and further east. Queen Zenobia, its famous ruler, presided over a remarkably cosmopolitan center. This preserve, a gastrique, reflects that strategic accumulation of wealth and sophistication.
What exactly is a gastrique? You mentioned it earlier with vinegar.
Like gastrique is a classic culinary term, often French in origin, referring to a reduction of vinegar and sugar cooked down to create a syrupy, sweet and sour sauce. It's used to add complexity and balance, especially to rich dishes. Here the concept is adapted using local Levantine ingredients.
So instead of plain sugar, they're using date syrup.
Precisely. The technique involves reducing date syrup, concentrating its sweetness and flavor, almost like Palmyra concentrated the wealth flowing through it. This sweet base is then balanced with acidity.
Where does the sour element come from?
Red wine vinegar might be used, reflecting those Roman Mediterranean connections. But the key, distinctly Levantine souring agent here is sumac powder. Sumac comes from the dried, ground berries of the sumac bush and provides a unique, bright, tangy, almost lemony tartness, but without the high moisture content of fresh lemon juice. It's perfect for dry preservation and adds a characteristic regional flavor.
So it's a concentrated sweet and sour syrup. What's the nutritional angle?
This concentration process really maximizes the density of certain compounds. Sumac is incredibly rich in antioxidants, particularly anthocyanins, those dark reddish-purple pigments that give it its color. Anthocyanins are powerful free radical scavengers, so this gastrique is noted as being very high in overall antioxidant capacity. It also retains good potassium levels, around 385 milligrams from the date syrup. It's a sophisticated flavor enhancer with protective benefits, fit for the elite of a major trade crossroads. Staying in Syria, we move to one of the oldest and most revered cities, 19 date pomegranate reduction, Damascus Oasis. This is tied to the Ghouta Gardens, sometimes called the Pearl of the East. Damascus is often cited as the oldest continuously inhabited city in the world, and its longevity is largely thanks to the broader river, which created the incredibly fertile Ghouta Oasis surrounding the city. These gardens were legendary for their lushness and productivity, sustained, as the notes say, by 7 rivers or branches of the Barada. This preserve celebrates that luxury of water abundance and the sophistication it allowed.
How is it different from the Persian pomegranate chutney? This sounds similar.
It shares pomegranate, yes, but it's a simpler reduction, more of a concentrated syrup or glaze rather than a chunky chutney. It uses Damascus concentrated date syrup, perhaps a particularly high-quality dibs, reduced further with pomegranate juice. The real signifier of luxury and the Gouda's abundance is the prominent use of rosewater.
Rosewater again. Is it special here?
Specifically, rosewater distilled from damask roses, which are historically associated with the city and renowned for their intense fragrance. Using potent rosewater speaks directly to having plentiful water for cultivation and distillation, a luxury unthinkable in more arid regions. Reducing these premium ingredients concentrates the flavor, creating a syrup that embodies cultural sophistication.
And nutritionally, similar benefits to other pomegranate preserves.
Yes, you get those powerful punicle and other antioxidants from the pomegranate concentrated by the reduction process. It's also high in potassium, around 420 milligram, from both the dates and pomegranate. The source also lists the spice malab as a key ingredient here.
Malab, what does that taste like?
Malab is fascinating. It's made from the ground kernels of the St. Lucie cherry, or Mahaleb cherry. It has a unique flavor profile that's hard to pin down, often described as a mix of bitter, almond, cherry, and perhaps a hint of vanilla or floral notes. It's used quite specifically in Middle Eastern baking and sweets. Its inclusion here signals a highly refined, established culinary tradition, typical of a prosperous and culturally dominant center like Damascus for centuries.
And finally, for this core Levantine section, we visit perhaps the most ancient site of all. 15. Date fig jelly, Jericho Oasis, celebrating the world's oldest continuously inhabited city.
Jericho's incredible history, stretching back perhaps 11,000 years, is owed almost entirely to a reliable natural spring, Ames Sultan. This provided the water that allowed continuous settlement and agriculture to develop very early on. This jelly combines 2 of humanity's oldest cultivated fruits in the region, dates and figs, both staples sustained by that spring.
A jelly, not a jam or compote. What does that imply about the technique?
Making a clear jelly, rather than a jam with fruit pieces, generally requires more processing and represents a step towards more refined food preparation, often associated with settled agricultural societies that have the time and resources for such techniques. The method involves extracting clear, strained juice from both the dates and figs. This demonstrates a shift from just using the whole fruit, as nomads might, to processing it for a specific textural outcome.
And how do they get it to set into a jelly?
By adding pectin. The source notes mention using liquid pectin and emphasize that it requires precise timing during the cooking process to achieve the correct set. This precision is interestingly analogized in the notes to the careful planning and timing required for settling into farming, knowing when to plant, when to harvest, how to manage complex agricultural cycles. Honey is often used as the sweetener, along with the fruit juice's natural sugars.
So it's a very clear, smooth preserve.
Ideally, yes. A translucent jelly showcasing the combined sweetness of dates and figs. Nutritionally, it's relatively simple, primarily natural sugars, but it does contain natural pectin from the fruits, enhanced by added pectin, which is a type of soluble fiber. It also offers some calcium, around 5% DV. It really symbolizes the stability and sweetness derived from mastering agriculture around a permanent water source like Jericho's spring. Okay, our final geographic section takes us to some fascinating and diverse locations. Egypt, with its unique oases, the Arabian Gulf, shaped by trade and oil wealth later on, and sub-Saharan Africa, particularly the Sahel and West Africa, where adaptation to extreme conditions led to unique solutions. These oases were often defined by relative isolation, leading to distinct flavors, or by the politics of abundant water, or connections to royal power and global trade.
A real variety of contexts. Let's begin in Egypt with a very famous oasis. 7. Date Honey Gulce, Siwa Oasis. Siwa legendary, partly because of Alexander the Great consulting the oracle of Amun there?
Exactly. Siwa is incredibly remote, deep in the western desert of Egypt. Its isolation has created a unique Berber culture and also specific microclimates that yield specialized agricultural products, particularly dates and olives, and unique honey. This preserve, a dulce, essentially a thick, sweet, caramelized sauce or syrup, aims to capture that unique character.
How is it made? Is it just dates and honey?
It starts by reducing date paste to concentrate its sweetness, then combines it with local Siwa honey. This honey is key. It's said to be derived from the nectar of desert wildflowers unique to the Siwa region, giving it a distinctively different, perhaps more intensely floral or herbal character compared to typical Egyptian clover honey.
The source material had that interesting note about the consistency, comparing it to prophecies.
Yes, it's a great analogy. The preserve is cooked until it achieves a very specific consistency, thick enough to thickly coat a spoon, described as being like the oracle's cryptic, ambiguous prophecies, substantial, clinging. But it should still be fluid enough to drizzle, signifying the underlying abundance or generosity, perhaps. It's a fine line.
And the other ingredients mentioned, Greek brandy and vanilla, where do they fit in?
These suggest sophistication and external influence, perhaps from later periods or reflecting Siwa's ancient importance. Greek brandy hints at the Hellenistic period after Alexander, connecting Egypt to the wider Mediterranean. Vanilla bean, not native to the region at all, signifies long-distance trade and a level of luxury suitable for a place where even powerful rulers sought divine consultation. Nutritionally, honey brings natural enzymes, and the combination offers high levels of polyphenols, antioxidants. It's a surprisingly complex preserve for such a remote location.
Staying in Egypt, but moving to a different oasis context. 18. Date-dried fig preserves, Baharia Oasis. This one is described as the Pharaoh's supply.
Baharia, another significant oasis in the Western Desert, was historically important as a major agricultural center, supplying food, wine, and other goods to the Nile Valley cities like Memphis and Thebes, especially during pharaonic times. It was a vital breadbasket, or perhaps date basket, for the kingdom. These preserves reflect that role of providing abundant, high-quality provisions.
So it combines dates and figs again, like the Jericho jelly, but as preserves.
Yes, but the texture is different. Here, dried figs are used, and the technique involves carefully rehydrating them, perhaps by soaking in water or syrup until they become plump and soft again. These are then combined with local seaweed dates, another Egyptian variety, and honey. The honey specified is desert bee honey.
Desert bee honey. Is that different?
It emphasizes the source bees foraging on the sparse but resilient desert flora. It speaks to making the most of limited resources, a testament to managing cycles of scarcity and abundance, which even fertile oases experienced. The key instruction in the preparation notes is that the fruits should meld together, their flavors combining, but they should still maintain their distinct character and shape. You should be able to tell the date from the fig.
And the source notes compare this to Upper and Lower Egypt.
Yes, another evocative analogy. Just as Upper, Southern, and Lower Northern Egypt retain distinct identities and cultures while being united under the pharaoh, the dates and figs in this preserve should be united in sweetness but retain their individual textures and flavors, a culinary representation of unity and diversity.
What's its main nutritional contribution?
This preserve ties with the chickpea paste, #11 for the highest fiber content in the entire collection again, 6 grams or 21% DV. That's substantial roughage. It also provides important minerals often lacking in purely grain-based diets, like calcium around 7% DV and magnesium around 9% DV, both crucial for muscle function, nerve transmission, and bone health. It's a very nourishing, sustaining mixture.
Okay, now we move south into the Sahel and West Africa, where conditions become even more challenging, particularly regarding water.
Hey.
Date vinegar ferment, Sahel survival, sounds like it's purely about function.
Absolutely. This is described as a drought resistance recipe, designed for the harsh realities of the Sahel, the transitional zone south of the Sahara, where reliable water sources are scarce and often contaminated. This isn't a culinary delight, it's a chemical survival tool, creating a drinking vinegar.
A drinking vinegar, how is it made and used?
Dates provide the initial sugar source, perhaps supplemented with raw honey. This mixture is allowed to undergo a relatively long fermentation, maybe 4 to 6 weeks. First, alcoholic fermentation happens, then the crucial acetobacter take over, converting the alcohol into acetic acid. The goal is to develop a significant level of acidity,
Why the high acidity?
primarily to make questionable water safer to drink. Adding a splash of this strong acidic vinegar to water could help kill or inhibit the growth of harmful bacteria and parasites, a traditional method of chemical decontamination when boiling wasn't feasible or fuel was scarce.
What other ingredients are added to boost its value?
To maximize the nutritional punch for this incredibly harsh environment, The recipe includes baobab powder. Baobab fruit powder from the iconic African tree of life is extraordinarily rich in vitamin C, calcium, potassium, magnesium, and fiber. It's a true superfood. Hibiscus flowers are also often added, providing tartness, a deep red color, rich in anthocyanins, and more vitamin C.
So it's an acidic, vitamin-packed concentrate.
Exactly. And interestingly, the resulting ferment is noted as having the highest sodium content in the collection, tied conceptually with the mostarda but used differently, a staggering 1,200 milligrams per serving, 52% of the DV. This makes it an unparalleled electrolyte replenishment solution for people undergoing intense physical labor and dehydration in the Sahelian heat. It's also extremely high in probiotics from the fermentation and delivers a major vitamin C boost, around 31% DV. It's designed explicitly for hydration, microbial safety, and nutrient delivery under extreme duress.
Building on that vinegar theme, but perhaps more refined, is 20, date hibiscus shrub, Timbuktu oasis. This represents the Mali Empire, known for its gold trade and Islamic scholarship. We heard the term shrub earlier. Remind us what that is.
Right, a shrub in this context is essentially a drinking vinegar, but usually sweetened and used as a base for mixing drinks. It's often fruit-infused vinegar mixed with sugar or syrup. The Timbuktu version reflects a slightly more established, perhaps wealthier urban context compared to the pure survival ferment of the Sahel. It's associated with the Great Mali Empire, a center of learning and trans-Saharan gold trade.
How is it different from the Sahel ferment?
The key difference is the fermentation time. This is described as a shorter fermentation, lasting only 48 to 72 hours. This means less alcohol is converted to acetic acid, resulting in a product that's less sharply acidic and retains more sweetness. It's designed more as a flavorful syrup to mix with water, creating a refreshing beverage, rather than primarily as a water purifier.
What gives it its character?
Strong brewed hibiscus tea is a primary ingredient, lending that beautiful deep red color characteristic of many West African drinks, like bissap or zobo, and its signature tartness. Apple cider vinegar, specifically with the mother, containing the live acetobacter culture, is often used as the acidic base or starter. Tamarind paste might also be added for another layer of sourness common in the region.
So its function is a bit less austere.
Yes, it leans more towards being a sophisticated flavoring agent and perhaps a gentle digestive aid rather than a hardcore survival tool. Nutritionally, it's high in anthocyanins from the hibiscus, those red pigments that act as antioxidants. It still offers some probiotic benefits from the vinegar culture, and it retains good potassium levels, around 385 milligrams. It elegantly blends African hibiscus, tamarind, and Arab dates vinegar technique traditions, reflecting Timbuktu's role as a cultural crossroads.
Okay, let's cross back over the continent to the Arabian Gulf oases. These were often defined by their strategic locations for maritime trade, like the frankincense route, and later by oil wealth. We have 16. Date candied orange marmalade, Nizwa Oasis. Nizwa is historically important in Oman.
Nizwa was a major center of power, religion, and trade in Oman's interior, commanding routes, including the ancient frankincense trade. This marmalade reflects Oman's distinct identity and its mastery of maritime trade, which required preserving foods, especially sources of vitamin C, for long sea voyages.
Marmalade usually involves citrus peel. What's special here?
This recipe uses bitter oranges, like Seville oranges, which are prized for marmalade due to their intense aroma and high pectin content. The technique highlighted is incredibly precise. The peel must be julienned, cut into very thin, neat strips, with the meticulousness likened to the precise architecture of Oman's famous forts, like the one in Nizwa.
And dealing with the bitterness of the peel.
That's crucial. The julienne peel must be blanched, briefly boiled in water multiple times, changing the water each time. This process removes the excess bitterness while retaining the aromatic orange oils and the peel's structure. It's labor-intensive, but results in a much more refined flavor.
What else goes into this Omani marmalade?
The sweetness comes primarily from kalas dates, a particularly prized variety in Oman and the Gulf, known for their rich, buttery flavor. Omani lime powder, or lumi, makes another appearance, reinforcing that focus on preserved citrus, essential for maritime trade, and preventing scurvy among sailors. Cardamom is often added, lending that characteristic warm, aromatic Arabian Gulf fragrance.
Nutritionally, this sounds like a vitamin C powerhouse.
It absolutely is. Thanks to the bitter oranges, this marmalade boasts the highest vitamin C content in the entire collection, estimated at 36% of the daily value per serving. It's also rich in limone, the main aromatic compound in citrus peel, valued for its fragrance and potential digestive benefits. Of course, it's also high in sugars, around 36 g per serving from the dates and the candying process. It's a sophisticated blend of local Omani sweetness and globally traded citrus preservation techniques.
Now, for what sounds like peak luxury, 21 date rose honey syrup, Al Asa Oasis. Al Asa in Saudi Arabia is noted as the largest oasis in the world.
Al-Asa is truly remarkable. A vast expanse estimates range up to 30,000 acres of date palm groves, historically sustained by an enormous natural artesian aquifer system with dozens of springs. It's an oasis defined by sheer abundance of water in an otherwise hyper-arid region. This syrup is designed to be a celebration of that water wealth and the resulting luxury.
How does it convey that luxury?
It starts with premium Callus date syrup, the best quality dibs, which is then gently reduced to concentrate it further, like concentrated the essence of the oasis's bounty. But the defining ingredient is triple distilled rosewater.
Triple distilled. Why the emphasis on that?
Standard rosewater is already potent. Triple distilled rosewater is incredibly intense, requiring significantly more rose petals and water for the distillation process. Using such a concentrated form is a statement. It signifies that you have water and resources to spare. It's the justification and manifestation of Al-Asa's unique abundance, creating an intensely floral, almost intoxicating aroma and flavor. Raw honey and perhaps a few threads of saffron are added to complete the picture of liquid gold.
So this should be the sweetest, most aromatic preserve.
Absolutely. It's meant to be a sensuous experience. Nutritionally, it offers natural enzymes from the raw honey and high levels of antioxidants from the dates and potentially the rose petals. It's less about basic survival and entirely about representing the pinnacle of oasis prosperity through concentrated sweetness and aroma.
And finally, bringing us to the very foundation of modern Saudi Arabia, 23. Date cardamom vanilla syrup, Diriyah Oasis. Diriyah, near Riyadh, was the original home of the Saudi royal family.
Yes, Diriyah holds immense historical significance as the birthplace of the first Saudi state. Dates here are deeply symbolic, representing not just survival in Central Arabia, but also traditional hospitality, cultural identity, and the resilience upon which the kingdom was founded. This syrup embodies that sense of history, ambition, and refinement.
How does the preparation reflect royal concentration?
The date syrup base is reduced significantly, concentrating its flavor and richness, symbolizing perhaps the concentration of power or ambition. The recipe calls for using real vanilla beans, specifying that they should be scraped with the meticulousness and precision of royal protocol, no shortcuts. Vanilla, originating from Mesoamerica, represents global trade connections and the adoption of international luxury goods.
And the finish is particularly rich, isn't it?
Very. The syrup is finished with additions of ghee, clarified butter, and heavy cream. This adds an incredible richness, mouthfeel, and caloric density, explicitly analogized in the source notes to the early wealth and refinement associated with the foundation of the state. Cardamom provides the essential grounding Arabian fragrance.
What about the nutritional side of this luxurious syrup?
It's clearly a rich, calorie-dense treat. The focus isn't on lean survival here. Vanillin, the primary flavor compound from vanilla, provides the powerful aroma. The ghee and cream contribute saturated fat, while cardamom adds its aromatic essential oils. It's the ultimate expression of how the foundational date could be elevated through concentration and the addition of luxurious ingredients from near and far to symbolize power, wealth, and sophisticated hospitality at the heart of the kingdom.
Wow. That was an incredible journey through 23 distinct, meticulously engineered survival foods and symbols of culture. From the stark austerity of the Sahel ferment to the sheer opulence of the Al-Asa rose syrup. The humble date was always the starting point, but the techniques, the added ingredients, they tell such diverse stories.
They really do. And seeing them all together, you can clearly identify those recurring strategies, those core preservation mechanisms, adapted and refined in each location based on available resources and specific needs.
Let's quickly synthesize those 4 core mechanisms again, just to anchor them and maybe connect them directly to their primary utility.
Absolutely, we can group them functionally.
Salting and acid. That includes the akar, #1, with its preserved lemons, and all the vinegar ferments and shrubs, #20, #22. The primary utility here was microbial control, killing harmful bacteria, which enables safer hydration when using the vinegars, and created complex, pungent flavors while preserving the food itself.
Okay, salt and acid for safety and tang.
Second, high sugar and reduction. This covers all the syrups, jellies, the dulce, and many of the compotes and jams, #7, #15, #19, #21, #23, and others. The utility was leveraging natural antimicrobial action through high osmotic pressure, maximizing energy density by concentrating sugars, and achieving remarkable long-term storage stability, often without needing refrigeration.
Sugar for energy and longevity.
Third, dehydration. The prime example being the date leather, #9. The utility here was achieving extreme portability by removing weight and volume, creating a virtually zero moisture product impervious to most spoilage, and maximizing nutrient concentration relative to weight, perfect for travelers.
Drying for lightness and concentration.
And fourth, confit. This includes the unique date camel milk butter confit, #4, and, in a way, the date pistachio compound butter, #10. The utility was providing shelf-stable, incredibly high caloric fat and energy by excluding water and oxygen. This was crucial for insulation, sustained energy release for nomadic life, and protecting the food itself within the fat barrier.
Fat for sealing and fuel. Got it. But beyond the method, the specific ingredients chosen seem just as important, but healing these chemical adaptations for survival that we touched on. The critique suggested really connecting these compounds back to the human survival narrative. Let's do that explicitly now for some key examples.
That's a great point. Because the intense flavors and chemical complexity weren't just incidental, they were often inherently functional components of survival and health in these extreme environments. Take tartness and acidity. This was delivered by compounds like tartaric acid from tamarind, #3, acetic acid from the vinegars, #8, #22, limon from the bitter orange peel, #16, and those powerful cunicoladins from pomegranates, #2, #19. These weren't just making things taste good or balancing sweetness, they actively aided digestion, acted as preservatives themselves, and compounds like punicoladins offer significant antioxidant protection, crucial for mitigating the cellular damage from intense UV exposure common in deserts.
So sourness was protective and digestive. What about the heat and strong smells?
That was functional too. The heat and aromatics.
So given this incredible depth and functional complexity, how were these preserves actually used in daily life? They clearly couldn't have just been occasional sweet treats or desserts.
No, their versatility was key to their value and allowed these cultures to thrive nutritionally. They weren't confined to a single course or application. The source notes provide a wide range of serving suggestions that really highlight this.
Like what? Give us some examples.
Well, you see savory applications like pairing the date preserved lemon acar, #1, or the date harissa jam, #14, with rich lamb or chicken tagines, adding that sweet, sour, or spicy counterpoint. Or using the date tamarind compote, #3, or the date candied orange marmalade, #16, as a filling or topping for breakfast items, maybe with fresh labneh, strained yogurt, or inside date-filled cookies, mammal. Spreading the date pomegranate chutney, #2, or the date pistachio butter, #10 on flatbreads like lavash or sangak would have been a staple way to get quick energy.
And the more liquid preserves.
Yeah.
The syrups and vinegars.
Those had sophisticated uses too. Imagine finishing roasted root vegetables or grilled meats with a drizzle of the date sumac gastrique, #12, for that complex sweet-sour tang. Or using the date-aged balsamic vinegar, #22, or the date hibiscus shrub, #20, to create unique vinaigrettes for salads composed of desert greens or grains.
So appetizers, mains, sides.
Absolutely. They served as condiments alongside cheeses, particularly aged goat or sheep cheeses, #1, #17. They could be stirred into grains like couscous or rice for flavor and energy. The date chickpea paste, #11, could be a dip or spread similar to hummus but unique. And yes, they certainly formed the base for desserts too, like flavoring Arabic coffee cakes, #21, #23, or being used in sauces, or even as part of savory sweet dips like mohamara, which often uses pomegranate molasses, #19. They literally span the entire meal structure. It proves that the harsh desert environment demanded and inspired incredible versatility and maximum utility from every single precious calorie they managed to preserve.
This is where it gets really profound, I think. Looking at this entire collection, all 23 meticulously documented recipes, it proves beyond any doubt that food isn't just sustenance. It's a living map of human ingenuity, adaptation, and culture. The desert wasn't just a hostile environment to be endured, it acted as an intense innovation engine.
That's perfectly put. The sheer necessity of preservation, the need to make every calorie count and last, forced these cultures into developing a deeply sophisticated, practical understanding of chemistry, agriculture, and flavor interactions. They took the simple, resilient date, a gift of the oasis, and transformed it, through incredible cleverness, into complex, life-saving, and often beautiful cuisine. Cuisine that didn't just sustain individuals, but actually helped define entire empires and civilizations.
It really makes you think, and it leaves us with a powerful maybe provocative closing thought for you, our listeners, especially as we face our own modern challenges around resources, climate, and sustainability?
When we look at this incredible map of oasis cuisine, what we're seeing is humans taking one of the most basic resilient resources available in their harsh environment, the date palm, and elevating it through sheer ingenuity to its highest possible expression, creating value, sustenance, and culture.
So the question becomes, what overlooked natural resource exists in your own environment? Maybe something you take for granted, something that seems humble, or something that thrives despite difficult conditions. Could that resource, if viewed with the same ingenuity and respect shown by these desert cultures, become the foundation of a new culinary tradition, a new technology, or a new way of thriving sustainably?
It's definitely something to think about. Next time you happen to eat a simple date, maybe pause and consider the incredible history and potential packed inside it.
A truly profound thought to end on. That's all the time we have for this incredibly extensive deep dive into the complete Desert Oasis Preserve collection. Thank you so much for guiding us through this amazing history of survival, ingenuity, and sweetness.
It was my pleasure. A fascinating journey indeed.